And but I'm here as a creative entrepreneur, as you said in your introduction, promoting Life Review, the Hospice Musical. This is a new musical comedy I've created, inspired by my real-life experiences as a hospice chaplain. So 10 years ago, Luke, I was a beginner chaplain. Driving home, I called my wife. I said, honey, I think these stories, they want to be songs. She said, okay, get writing. That night, I opened up one of those journal books, you know, the black and white. Do they have those in Britain with the black and white speckled cover?
Oh, yeah.
In the United States, that's like the cheap journal book that all the kids get. So songwriters like those too. I grabbed one of those books, opened it up, and I started writing that evening. A song that survives to this day, over 10 years later. I've loved it since I was a child. I remember when I was 11 and I saw my first Broadway show. This talented 11-year-old boy, minus beard, I saw it and I was like, I want that. That's what I want someday. If you could say, Ben, what do you want to do with your life? I want to take this thing to Broadway. So that's the biggest dream I have in life.
Hey guys, are you feeling burnt out or wanting a quick break away from the daily grind? Well, our friends over at Cyro Boca Place offer the ultimate destination for those seeking a blend of luxury wellness, adventure, and restoration. If you know me, you know I'm fully invested in health and well-being. So if you don't prioritize yourself first, how are you supposed to be showing up for others around you? Looking for an experience like this, head over to www.cyrohotels.com.
Yeah. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom. I am your podcast host, Luke, and I have an international guest with us from Maryland, United States of America. Sometimes I said USA, and honestly, people was like, what? I can't believe in people don't even know where that is. But Benjamin is not only I want to say this. I mean, he's super excited to be on this show. He's got great energy, by the way. So I'm excited to sort of delve into his story. But he was just saying beforehand that he's a juggler of many hats. So I know you guys listening in will probably relate to this in some fashion. So it's going to be interesting and quite insightful to delve into that. He's a music teacher day to day, but he is actually a creative entrepreneur. He's got a business and performance that he's the director of, very creative, that we will delve into today. He's super passionate about it. I could already tell when we was chatting. He's got his coffee ready, and we're excited to just delve into this episode. So without further ado, Benjamin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Luke, and thanks for those kind introductory words. So for those of you counting at home, if you've ever made a friend in the United States, you know there's math involved. So lucky Luke here has got great afternoon energy. I've got the clutching my coffee morning energy. And if you don't understand why, ask someone who understands time zones. But here I am talking to you, and I'm glad to be here, Luke. You are correct. I have a day job. I work as a music teacher at a private school called Friends Community School.
Nice.
In the area, yeah, we're a Quaker-affiliated school. So when we pray, it's... but the rest of the time, you know, play the guitar, dance, and sing with the little kids. That's my main day job, so to speak. And... but I'm here as a creative entrepreneur, as you said in your introduction, promoting Life Review, the Hospice Musical. This is a new musical comedy I've created, inspired by my real-life experiences as a hospice chaplain. So 10 years ago, Luke, I was a beginner chaplain, and a chaplain, for those of you who don't know, it's like a religious professional who visits people in their time of need.
Right.
For older people in the United States, the classic reference is the TV show MASH. Do you guys have MASH in Britain in like old reruns?
Maybe somewhere, but I can't recall it. Yeah.
Okay, ask your parents about MASH when you're done with this recording, people. If you're young, you might not know it. But it's basically like in the hospital, if someone's dying and they send a priest, that's a chaplain.
Yes,
right?
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So generically speaking, a chaplain is someone who is a faith professional, usually clergy, but not always, who is trained with sort of additional therapeutic skills to help people in need, right? So I was trained as a cantor, a Jewish music minister, and I saw in my first synagogue job, there was a very gray population, right? It's skewed older, meaning... to put a fine point upon it, there were a lot of funerals, there were a lot of hospital visits. My skills weren't super strong in those areas. So I sought out training, and chaplaincy training was the thing I decided to do. During that training, I was an intern and I had to do literally hundreds of hours of visits and then have a graduate level class to discuss and learn about skills, process it, all of that. So it was during that training when I started to hear these stories that were so amazing to me. There's a process called life review. Yes, that's the same phrase I used for the name of the musical. But the life review interview, Luke, is a clinical technique where you visit someone bedside and you ask them the kind of questions that invite them to share important stories from their life.
Okay.
So I learned how to do a life review interview, and then I went and practiced this skill with real life people at their end of life journey. You know, they're in the hospice to get ready to die. If they've lost the ability to speak, it's their loved ones who will engage in this interview process, right? Telling the story of the loved one in the bed. So I was hearing these amazing stories, and one night driving home, I called my wife. I said, honey, I think these stories, they want to be songs. She said, okay, get writing. That night, I opened up one of those journal books, you know, the black and white. Do they have those in Britain with the black and white speckled cover?
Oh, yeah.
In the United States, that's like the cheap journal book that all the kids get. So songwriters like those too. I grabbed one of those books, opened it up, and I started writing that evening. A song that survives to this day over 10 years later. It was a ballad called Will It Still Snow, inspired by a poem of the same title I used with permission. And the conceit of the song is a woman who's dying, imagining the world after her death. So in the play, in the version that has made it 10 years forward, she is specifically a character who was in New England, meaning not Old England, New England, like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and in her younger years would go skiing with the family. So her big moment in the play is remembering these beautiful winters. So the song expresses that memory in music.
Yes.
I tell people the play is a bit like chorus line combined with Fiddler on the Roof. So chorus line, the individual characters step forward, they deliver a monologue in musical form. Fiddler on the Roof, because there's a lot of God wrestling with the main character who believes but is also struggling. So like, how do you reconcile those? Anyway, the chorus line piece of stepping forward and telling the story, that to me was always going to be part of this project. The actual narrative arc has kind of morphed over the years, and we can talk about what it means to see a goal through for 10 years. But needless to say, over a decade of slow and steady creative work, the project has had some ups and downs. I'm proud to say we're still going. You know, if you want to learn like the detailed version of how does it take 10 years to get a musical not yet on Broadway or not yet at the West End, you can look at the website lifereviewmusical.com. But suffice to say, part of it was this question you've already teed up, Luke. Like, I had this creative dream, but I was not independently wealthy, and I was not yet ready to quit my day job and just do the thing, because I had a wife and child. I mean, I still do. But when I first began the first germ of the project, my child was then 3 years old. So any parent out there who's listening, you know, if you currently have a salaried job that's not super inspirational, and you have a dream that's not yet paying you,
yes.
If you have a child, it is much harder to switch your attention to the dream.
Yeah. I get you. No, I mean, that itself, I mean, thank you for sharing that as well. And there's something that it's like a deep question that I want to sort of ask you, because I think just for the guys to sort of check in. But just on that note, you know, I know myself having a business, my fiance's got a business, and we've got a young daughter.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. So I know what you mean, like the attention to sort of stay, I guess, really focused on business when you have those low months and high months. And I know people sort of listening, it's really hard to stay present as well. As a parent, to because obviously, you know, they grow up fast, and like you're saying, you've got like your passion, your dream project, but then you've got, you know, you want that safety and that security for the family to be able to provide.
That's right.
Which I think everybody sort of here listening in will so relate to that. I think it's just we'll definitely go into that and ask how you've sort of managed it, but just going on to this life review thing,
please,
because you know I'm obviously very much I'm not scared of death, but I think just the fact that you actually go and ask these questions to people that are, I guess, at the end of their life.
Yes.
What's just out of curiosity for me,
please,
and just so what's the question that you would say is the most frequent one that you ask when in that moment?
Oh, okay, so you're asking about the real life version, not the stage version?
Go for real life, yeah. And I just, and if you
Sure.
if there's a story that sort of stands out in your mind,
Yeah,
feel free to.
absolutely. So broadly speaking, when a chaplain or a social worker goes in to visit the person who is ill or recuperating or even more seriously ill and dying, the general purpose is similar regardless of the prognosis, right? I know for someone who doesn't normally do this work, the idea of visiting dying people feels fraught because they're dying. So there's an added level of drama. It has been pointed out, by the way, for my play, even without saying it, there's a layer of drama that's like laid upon the whole thing without me saying a word, because people know you're in the hospice to die, right? Going to the hospice is not the same as going to the gym. I know you're a fitness guy.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
But I bring up the purpose because in the fictional version, the purpose of the visit as a dramaturg, right, as a person who creates drama, it's to shine a light on private stories and give them kind of a public audience in the theater. So that woman I mentioned, loosely based on a real life person who had a family in Massachusetts, like skiing was a happy memory, and I could kind of spin out a story in a song. Okay. But it's starting with that tiny moment, seeing an idea and making it bigger as a dramatic moment. Here's the thing. The real life moments don't always have drama, but the purpose in the real life is to provide, if you're a chaplain, to provide holy comfort. And maybe if the person is of a faith tradition where prayer is helpful, you can offer a prayer. That is a chaplain skill, that when you say goodbye, you say, "May I offer a prayer?" And you kind of create something off the top of your head using themes from the visit. Christians are generally better at this than Jews because it's part of their faith tradition to do more spontaneous prayer. For Jews like myself, it's a skill that you have to work up, though now I'm quite good at it. My first year of chaplaincy training, I felt rather ham-fisted. But that's a skill, right?
Yeah,
Others learn different skills that they're not as good at. But that's the chaplain purpose, to provide patient comfort, non-judgmental listening, calming, quote, non-anxious presence during a time of high anxiety. And many of those aspects, Luke, are similar to what a good therapist, counselor, psychologist does, right? The difference is that the chaplain has the religious hook, right? Whether it's the yarmulke of the Jewish person or the collar of the priest or the frock of an imam, right? They're signifiers when you step into the room dressed as clergy that for some people brings up relief, and for others, to be honest, brings up tension. Some people are like, oh crap, the priest is here. That means dad's really going to die. And by the way, in our defense, chaplains do not bring the specter of death. Illness and age does, but you know that old thing, correlation does not imply causation. So the priest often shows up in the last few months of life because there's a tradition called last rites. Similarly, in the Jewish tradition, the rabbi or cantor shows up to do what's called the last confessional, which is similar to the words uttered on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. But that doesn't cause the death of the patient, right? Just want to point that out.
Clear that one out.
You were asking about the key question, so I'll finally circle back to that. Truthfully, a chaplain doesn't have a list of key questions. However, the life review technique involves open-ended questions that invite stories. And honestly, anyone listening can use this if you have an elderly loved one, a sick loved one, someone who's in hospital, hospice, even just someone who's old and wants to share their stories. I can break into song for a moment because this song has questions in it, and it just gives an example. This is from the show. It's called Life Review. Who are you? What did you do? Where did you go? Who did you know? Who did you love? Who did you lose when you had a choice? How did you choose? And I'll pause there. There's more song if you see the show. But just those questions, as open-ended as they are, any person in the world on Earth will answer those 5-6 questions differently.
Yes, definitely.
And they're open-ended enough that anyone in the audience might hear them and go to a place of reflection on self or reflection on loved one who has died So my offering to you, Luke, and anyone who has a loved one in the older generation is in addition to the surface level. Surface level's easy. How are you? How's the weather?
Yeah.
How about that football team?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
over there, football means soccer, and over here, soccer means football, but football means something else. But you can talk about sports and weather, but going beneath the surface, or as chaplains talk about, going to the person's basement, meeting them where they are, that's the harder thing. And that's what we professionals are trained to do. And that's what, wonderful listener, is harder for most, quote, regular people. Because here's the thing. When you teed up this question, Luke, without saying it explicitly, you said it. People like you and me, and I'm going to group myself with you, even though I think you might be a bit younger, but people who present as young and fit, we tend to have fewer experiences with death, but for grandparents, tragic illness, and shocking accidents. But I'm 45, so my parents are currently elderly. My wife's a little older, so her parents are even older. That means for my current generation, the only people who are dead are those who had a degenerative illness. Like I had a friend from college who died of muscular dystrophy, and I had one friend who died by suicide. So that's the only one I'm missing there would be like military or industrial accidents. And honestly, in upper middle class circles, you don't tend to have many friends in industrial accidents or military deaths. However, I had a good friend who was a congregant at a synagogue job who was former active duty military. And so he had a high number of friends who were dead by suicide in our generation. But other than that, those tragic asterisks, people our age, 30s, 40s, most of us can avoid funerals, right? Most of us can avoid the specter of old age. Are you following?
I am, yeah.
Okay. However, the older generation, our parents, our aunts and uncles, they are there right now. Our grandparents are all gone, but for like heroic, super old relatives. But it's an outlier. But, to take a typical example, my grandparents were all dead by the time I was 13 or 14. That's kind of more typical. That may be changing with my daughter's generation as medical advances, but still.
Yeah.
You get it. We are in the sandwich generation where we have children, whether they're young like yours or teenage like mine. So we have to watch out for them. And we are watching out for our aging parents' generation. But there is this awareness, to quote the funny opening song for my play, it's coming for all of us, no matter how you feel, right? And that it is death and dying, right? We want to do everything we can to delay the inevitable. I did very little research on you, but I see that you're a fitness guy and you are a beautiful man in beautiful shape. And you made me go like, oh, I should probably eat better today. So I look good on my interview. But the truth is, whether I'm as fit as you or as fit as me, we both end in the same place, my friend. And we might forestall the inevitable a little, but we might also get hit by a bus. I mean, God forbid, as the Jews say. So the reason why I open my play with this funny number called spoiler alert, parentheses, everybody dies in the end, it's funny, and it sort of breaks the tension because it has this double meaning. Everyone in the play is going to be dead, except for the chaplain, because, dying people in hospice, but also everyone in the room dies in the end. Get it?
Yeah, no, it's so true, and I think the way you put it out there as well, Benjamin, is pretty cool. Like in a funny way, and it's so real. It's inevitable when we are going to die. I think a lot of people think that they're going to be here for an infinite time, maybe in other lives that could happen, but they live like they're here forever. And I think just where you've spoken about the surface level, there's a lot of that, going a little bit deeper below the surface. It was sort of the reason I created this platform, was to go a little bit deeper. So
let's go there.
Yeah, I love this life review because I'm very big on like checking in with yourself now, whether that is, things such as auditing your business or auditing your life or auditing, your time, whatever it may be. So what was the reason that you wanted to create this life review? What sort of like that reason, and then what do you want to give back to people through that?
The moment of inspiration was hearing stories and connecting it with that creative impulse, right? So before I knew how I would share it and the bigger purpose, the very first step was connecting inspiration with perspiration. That's an unfortunate phrase, but it's funny for a reason, as in you have to have both the idea and then pick up the pen, literally or metaphorically. I talk a lot in my songwriting trainings about picking up the pen and moving it faster than your internal critic can tell you to slow down or that it's not a good idea. So I believed in the good idea early on that these stories were meant to be songs. It helped that I had a wife, still do, a same girl, who has encouraged me. There had to be the thing created before I could share it. You follow? And the other piece was in that early creativity journey was having additional people, not just your spouse who's supposed to encourage you, you hope, but like, let's call it trusted experts. I think this is a very tricky thing for creative people starting out, but it's why it's so important to be brave about things like a coffee house or a talent show, or even just like singing for someone beyond your significant other. And guys, if you're not a songwriter, of course, extend this to whatever your big crazy idea is that you're nervous about sharing. Because for any idea that is currently, I'm going to hold up my ugly handwriting, written on a piece of paper that no one else can read, it is one share or two shares away from being something real. But you have to get past the fear that someone might shrug, or worse yet, have a strong feeling of aversion or dislike for what you do. Maybe in this day and age, the easiest thing to do is to get ignored. Sometimes, notice the ascent of the extreme right wing in the United States, beginning and ending of my political talk right there. But we can safely say the United States is a case study of the look here at the awful thing sometimes works, right? But look here at the special thing, look here at the unexpected thing, I believe can also work. Now, to be fair, I'm being cautious here because I don't want to stand on my soapbox too long. I can be a bit pedantic. But as a former chaplain and as a former synagogue cantor, I can tell you that there's an epidemic of loneliness among the seriously ill and elderly and dying. There's a lot of really good caregivers who work terribly hard, are frequently underpaid and overworked, who try to spend the extra time with this person and that person. Unfortunately, in the United States, a place where much of our healthcare is profit-driven and not care-driven, ongoing care has been ratcheted down, and therefore those who want to linger with patients are kind of stretched thin, if you follow me.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of the meta system, there is this epidemic of older and lonely people kind of struggling with the feeling that they've been left behind or they've been forgotten. We know in a bygone era, when our older people were younger people, people did not live as long, but people did not also move as dispersed. I think this is true in all of the major industrialized countries, right? That 2 generations ago, it was far more common for families to stick in the same neighborhood, for better or worse. But it meant it was easier for different generations to look out for one another. Now, I did 1,000 hours, Luke, of supervised chaplain work. I can tell you I've had these conversations many times over. It is so common for currently elderly people to feel like they understand, but they're sad that, I'm proud of this grandson who's in Arizona, and I'm so proud of my granddaughter in Florida, but I don't see her much. And this son is in Hong Kong. Can you believe it? I haven't seen him in 2 years. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Now, in this age of technology, as you and I are showing with this beautiful transatlantic connection, you can make a real human connection through a computer, through your iPhone, etc., even with grandma or grandpa. And if they're not good at tech, maybe their social worker or chaplain is. And I can tell you at the height of COVID, which was the tail end of my chaplaincy training, I did some very serious chaplain work over a phone, over FaceTime, over Zoom. It all counted as clinical work because I was there looking into their eyes through that white dot, right? The way you do as a skilled interviewer. So if there's a meta message, message 1 is visit your people while you can. I don't say that literally in the play, but I think it's something that I tend to offer as a soapbox style message when I interview about the show, right? Because whether you are currently elderly and it's your peer group in nursing homes and in hospitals and in hospice, or whether you're our age and it's the older generation there, or whether you're a teen or a person in their 20s and it's your grandparents who are currently dying. Like, we all have people in that older generation, right? No matter how old or young we are. And so my number one thing, if there's a takeaway from today, is take a little time out of your busy life, pick up the phone, text, call, write an old-fashioned postcard, post about it on Instagram, and whatever it needs for you to do the thing, the tech makes it possible. And you don't get you don't catch getting old, especially when mediated through a screen. If you're brave, go in person. That's the best, but that's not for the faint of heart. We all know that. Some people get the heebie-jeebies going to older person residences, even more so for hospices. I would say for those who don't know about hospice care, there might be a meta lesson within my play about, you could call it a cheerful take on what hospice care can be and is meant to be, right? For those listening who don't know, what is hospice care? Hospice care originated in England, I learned in my research for the project. For those of you who have never heard this story, it was a World War II nurse whose name, of course, escapes me at the moment. I'll remember once we hang up. But it was based on the medical advances during the war where young GIs or soldiers of whatever type were injured terribly, but not immediately killed, right? In World War I, same injuries, they were dead on the battlefield. World War II, because of medical advances, they lingered. Some of them for days, some for weeks, some recuperated, many did not. So for that in-between group, what is the new problem? How do we manage a new group of patients, those who are going to be seriously injured and possibly dying? How do we manage the symptoms of terrible injury and death? So the question became, okay, what are the symptoms of terrible injury, pain? So then we're looking at pain management as a key goal. And what are the symptoms related to death and dying? Well, it's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of, to be frank, theological crises. And that's how the chaplains get involved from the beginning. Think about it. In all of your favorite movies involving a death scene, whether the chaplain, the guy with the collar, comes in literally or not, there's often a sense of elevated holiness, or even if the person isn't like praying bedside, right? A classic Hollywood death scene involves some sort of revelation of meaning and deep importance. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. Life isn't always like Hollywood. We know that. But the idea that Hollywood conveys in those moments is that when a person is close to their end of their life, if they're able to think about it, speak about it, process it, they might have some elevated conversations. So that idea is correct. And chaplains, along with social workers, are there to help with that. So that's a tiny bit about hospice care. Separate from all those lofty goals, Luke, I'm a musical theater guy. I've loved it since I was a child. I remember when I was 11 and I saw my first Broadway show, this talented 11-year-old boy, minus beard, I saw it and I was like, that's what I want someday. So I haven't literally been chasing a Broadway dream in a direct path. My career is very zigzag,
Sure.
Jewish life, secular life, music teacher, chaplain, playwright, singer. But I can tell you this, when I get on the stage and I sing my show, I am so in it. I am super engaged. I happen to be a very good singer and an entertaining presence.
You can tell.
But in terms of all of my skills and interests, if you could say, Ben, what do you want to do with your life? I want to take this thing to Broadway. So that's the biggest dream I have in life. And that might cue up your next question about how do we chase that dream for 10 years running?
I think for our audience listening, I mean, we'll go on sort of the 10-year stint, the commitment that you've had to go through, the highs, the lows, but you're still here, you're still showing up, you're not giving up, you want it to go to Broadway. But you was talking about loneliness, you was talking about the epidemic, which I think is something, I mean, I'm talking about loneliness here. I battle with it a lot in business as well and in life, finding those meaningful connections. With this life review that you're so passionate about through a musical, which I think is a good like pivot as well, and a nice little boost because it's expressionate. What do you want to see change in the world, and how do you want people to feel through being exposed to your musical?
I love it. That's such a wonderful question, and it helps to remind me the why behind all of the unglamorous work behind the scenes. Right? But the question was, what do I want my future audience to feel? Was that the
So what do you want to see change in the world?
What do I want to see change in the audience?
Well, so if your audience come to your musical,
yes,
what's going to help them change through your musical? What do you want to see off the back of it? But also, how do you want them to make them feel as well, I guess? So it's a bit of a see and feel.
Love it. So for feel, I want the audience to willingly strap in, so to speak, and come for a ride. Buckle your seatbelts, folks. And I often talk about this in my day job of music teaching with young children. Like, we people ride on an emotional roller coaster and have
100%.
to learn to regulate it. Theater goers, just like movie goers for that matter, willingly step into and then sit down into a ride, an emotional ride that is promising ups and downs. And different genres might promise different types of a ride, but with my show, I intentionally go up and down throughout. I vacillate between moments of deep pathos. I mean, that power ballad about snow, I mean, not a dry eye in the house. I'm very good at making people cry. My wife says that implies something sadistic, but I think it's mostly about my power as an actor and songwriter. She's teasing, by the way. But I know that a play about hospice is naturally going to include some tear jerkers.
Sure.
I also need to be liberal in dosing out the comedy in between and moments of release. So the full-length show has like a bonus dance number, which is a little bit reggae, a little bit sexy, and it's all the patients lusting after the care team. Some people were like, oh my, and that's exactly right, because one, it's real, right? Like, people who are older, people who are dying still have a sex drive, so that's kind of an interesting topic to play with. And two, you want unexpected feelings in a theater experience. I mean, there have been plays written that are straight dramas about death and dying. Angels in America comes to mind. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's like 4 hours long. Tony Kushner. It is devastating. I can't go and see it. I know it's so good, but I can't do 4 hours of weeping. I just can't. It's too much for me because I'm a little bit fragile. You get it?
Right.
And so musical theater, especially musical comedy, tries to quote Mary Poppins, one of my favorite older musicals. It takes a spoonful of sugar to let the medicine go down, or make the medicine go down. So my sugar is a little bit of the Borscht Belt style comedy, playing with different musical genres. So I've got vaudeville, I've got, pop rock that sounds a little bit Elton John, Billy Joel. I've got gospel, I've got R&B, I've got Frank Sinatra sounds. So like musically and sonically, there's variety. Emotionally, I've described there's ups and downs. And then there's a variety of characters. So for me, variety is helpful to navigate all of the challenge that's there under the surface. Because as I said earlier, I know that I'm wrestling with tough subject matter. To come back to the question you actually answered, friend, what do I want the audience to walk away with? A little bit more comfort with an uncomfortable topic.
Right.
Maybe it's a conversation after the show is done
That's good.
with their elderly parent or with their adult child. Hey, what did you think about ... And it opens it up. Because I think theater is uniquely engaging for difficult topics. One of my favorite shows is Dear Evan Hansen. And I wouldn't put this in the advertising, but frankly, it's a show about loneliness and teen suicide. It's pretty dark. It's been a huge commercial success in the West End, in America, on tour. But the marketing wasn't the new musical about teen suicide. It was a little bit vague. And I'm sure in early pitch meetings, they were like, how do we sell this? Because but part of it was focusing on a song called You Will Be Found, which is an uplifting anthem of hopefulness, that even when you feel lost, someone will find you. So in my marketing, I try to emphasize that we sing of triumphs and sorrows. We're sharing stories. We're visiting and being close, because there's a lot of positivity to that. So then taking that from the marketing to the bigger question in real life, I don't expect 2 hours in the dark to change someone's life in a big way right away. However, I do believe that the arts have the power to open up parts of our heart, parts of our mind, to the dark stuff and the difficult stuff in a way that regular day-to-day conversation doesn't do. Right there is the essence of the why for a musical comedy about death and dying. Referencing the earlier part of our conversation, too many of us who are in that I'm never going to die 20s, 30s, 40s demographic, we're so uncomfortable with our mortality that we just pretend it's not there. Or we do everything in our power to postpone it rather than accept it as a healthy reality of the lived experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely spot on. I think so many of us are resistant or will avoid it. It's not happening yet, so I don't need to think about it. kind of thing. But in reality, yeah, I guess from your side, you're mixing in quite, like you say, you've got a bit of arts, comedy, music. Obviously, I can tell you're a great singer, seeing as you've given us a little bit of a piece in this episode. Love that. So my question to you now, really, because I think obviously you've got a deep passion for this. It's been a part of your life outside of your day job. What's kept you going?
Yeah. This is something that I've had help with from two groups of Team Ben.
That's always good to have.
Yeah. So certainly if you're atypical, you should have a whole team. So it includes loved ones, therapists, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists, because I've got some body pain issues from some old injuries. But it's also included a coach. So a whole bunch of people.
Okay.
And even though I'm a mostly straight man trying to be I can do it, I'm unusually comfortable accessing help. That's important because, as you mentioned and then quickly moved on from, it can be a lonely pursuit to do this thing
100%.
that we do. And I know you and I are very different in many ways, but in a certain way, starting up a podcast and trying to tell the world about it in a world with a lot of podcasts is not that different from starting up a musical that no one's ever heard of and then telling everyone about it, right? So how do I keep going? Having a support team, clinical, paid and unpaid helps. 2, having a sense of purpose that this thing is important and I believe in it helps. 3, having small attainable goals and finding tiny successes and celebrate them is huge. I'll give an example. In just a week from today, I'm having a live performance in my local community. Nearly a year ago, I applied for a state grant from Maryland. Not the whole federal government, but the local state, one of 50. It was a real production to do this grant application. I did it. I got accepted.
Oh, wow.
I won $4,000.
Amazing.
The grant proposal was $1,000 to pay a musician to do some orchestrations and editing work. Rather unsexy but important step forward that is expensive and high value that I didn't want to pay for myself. So yay. The other $3,000 we're using to subsidize 2 public-facing performances for senior citizens and the general public. I'm giving away a bunch of tickets. This is all lovely. To be clear, the steps leading up, I should also brag for a second that the musicians playing the newly orchestrated parts, they're all conservatory players from the world-class Peabody Conservatory of Music in Baltimore City. I rehearsed with them once, Luke. It was sensational, gorgeous music, newly orchestrated, world-class players, violin, cello, flute, clarinet, piano. That's the tail end of a year of, and I haven't gotten to the performance yet. By the way, I'm not sure if I'll get 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 people. Luckily, with the state subsidy, I don't have too much of my own personal money riding on this if I don't move a lot of tickets. But the message to your viewers, it's not about this particular show. It's about how did I get to this point from a year ago and then stay interested. So part of it is remembering that some successes are going to be easy to grab in the here and now, but the bigger the project, the longer the timeline. That's really hard when you're new at this. I think especially if you like attention and adulation, because some kinds of attention and adulation, it just takes so damn long. I mean, it exhausts me telling you with the knowledge that I've almost arrived at the end of a 1-year process. It's still exhausting just to talk about. You hear that?
Yeah.
And I know that it's in a week, I will have 5 world-class musicians playing a show. I will have a room full of people with free tickets. The people in the State Arts Council will be happy. It's a big thing to brag about to all the people outside of Maryland on social media, blah, blah, blah. Great success. And I'm very excited, right? But how did I see that a year ago? Well, for one, I didn't see all of the details, but I had been told by one of my collaborators, I'll shout out to Jason Spiewak, wonderful musician. He's a music industry professional. Years ago, Luke, I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago, he said very important advice. He said, Ben, as you work on this thing, your number one goal is share it with as many people as possible on someone else's dime. Share it with as many people as possible on someone else's dime. Now, the second part is the hardest thing when you're a creator, because giving it away is easy on Instagram, Facebook, X, and whatever other platform, right? You know that, Luke.
Yeah.
It's easy to give it away for free with unknown eyeballs,
Sure.
right? Especially if you want low viewership, it's very easy. But to actually get people to pay attention, let alone open up their wallet, that's a whole nother thing. But he said, if you can partner, you might be able to like jump over the hurdle of ticketing, right? Because let's be frank, selling tickets to something that is unknown is really hard. I mean, to pivot from like theater to like small business person, if you have I know you're a fitness guy, if you're a new fitness trainer in town, giving away a free sample class, easy. Getting people to open up their wallet and sign up for the paid program, that's what's hard. So back to the theater thing, later today, I will be literally giving away 5 tickets here, 10 tickets here to local senior centers and local old age homes. That is a relatively easy, fun call for me to do compared with attempting to sell them for 10 and 20 bucks a piece. Much harder call. But I only got here because I had this vision of like, well, what would the state pay for? They're not going to pay for Ben Kintisch to pad his wallet. So how do I do a show that has a public purpose and that the state will get behind? So, okay, let's make it oriented for senior citizens. And I wrote up a whole plan, partner with this, I had a little bit of a track record. I had some credibility. So I'm using this as a tiny case study, but for any other project that has happened since the inception, it's been the combination of current moxie with future dreaming and a little bit of persistence to get from the crazy idea to the dreamed of future reality. Now, of course, that in-between work is everything for entrepreneurs, creative or otherwise. The last idea I'll mention, which I think is implied in the first part of the answer, the team, it's this idea called buoyancy. Have you ever heard that one, Luke, in the entrepreneurial space? Yeah. So when you said the word lonely, right away, the word buoyancy came up to me because most of us creative people literally create in isolation. It's like the archetypical writer thing. You know, in America, we have our famous Henry David Thoreau, and he goes to the woods and has a hut, you know, and I actually go to an annual Jewish songwriting retreat, which combines both community and opportunities to work in isolation, you know, go to that room and shut the door and write. But we have the combination of community and individuality. That, I think, is a key for buoyancy. So I'm going to take the songwriting example, and dear listener, I encourage you to think of songwriting as a stand-in for your creative or dream pursuit, right? So I write this song inspired by this story. The first time I shared it was at a national conference. It wasn't even a music conference. It was related to Jewish education, but a future mentor named Sue Horowitz ran a so-called song sharing space. So I went to that as a workshop. Again, I had never shared this stuff publicly with anyone. This is like 11 years ago. But I sang this song. I explained, I think it's from this musical that I'm just starting. And the character, I gave a little sketch. And then I sang it. Again, the melody wasn't even finished. The lyric was pretty close. Half the room was crying by the end. And this mentor, after the workshop was done, said, "Ben, is there more material?" I was like, "There is." She said, "You need to keep going because you've created something of great power." So that moment of encouragement early on, gold. Maybe not gold, maybe platinum or platinum with diamonds.
Yeah.
Talking about the value. So anyone listening, if you've never shared your thing, I encourage you to start sharing a bit more. There's a famous book called Show Your Work. If you don't know it, buy it. It's available in paperback and it's sensational. It talks a lot about how in the internet culture, there's now a thing where creatives and artists are sharing their steps. It's informed much of my work on Instagram, if you're curious, at Life Review Musical. So I have a lot of process content in addition to ta-da on stage. Like Ben with his guitar on stage, that's good, but it's a little on the nose. But I have stuff of me like at the computer, and the headline is like, "Another night, another submission. I hope Illinois State Hospice Convention takes my application." This is like the least sexy post, Luke, you could ever do. Can I tell you how much engagement I get on that? A lot. And you know why? Because it reminds people that this work, it's not all about the jazz hands and the bright lights. That's the dream. But to get there, I have to keep doing the work.
Yes.
So part of it is doing, I mean, that may feel a little bit performative to do a video of the Jim Carrey typing hands.
Yeah.
But it's meant to show that, and if you want to see what I mean, take a look at the videos and the posts that I've done on my Instagram. It's like, it's very surprising looking back on it, because I've been on the platform like 3 or 4 years now. When I first started, it was just like selfies or thumbs up. And then I realized like the process stuff is actually super engaging. So think, guys, if you're listening, what are you doing between right now and your dream? If you're very early, it might be literally like the cup of coffee and I'm dreaming. And what you put out there is, I have a dream. Who wants to hear about it? And then just see who's your Facebook friend or your Instagram follower who's curious, and then maybe a conversation starts. Or if you're further along and you're up to that second, third step, I encourage you all to, like, even if it feels a tiny bit self-aggrandizing, to do a selfie, do a picture with a fan. I mentioned like the coffee house or talent show kind of thing. A few years ago, I brought my song to a local coffee house. I've been local for 8 years now. Why did it take me 5 years to go to a coffee house with a Ben Kintisch original song for my play? You know why, Luke? Because 5 years in, my best friend, this guy named Lou, who lives around here, he was like, "Hey, Benny boy, you should do it at a coffee house." And I was like, why would I do that? And he said, "Why not? Your music's great." Is that so obvious to you, Luke? Of course I should sing my song at a local coffee house. Does that feel like an obvious suggestion?
Yeah, definitely.
So here's the ridiculousness. For 5 years, that was not obvious to me.
Right.
I'm in a part of the United States where there's a pretty vibrant coffee house open mic culture, meaning I can get on my computer and find 10 or 20 coffee houses and open mics in an hour's drive or less. The guilty part of me is a little embarrassed that I haven't tapped into that yet. But the healthy growth mindset guy is like, I haven't visited those coffee houses yet. So it took me 5 years for a trusted friend to give that obvious suggestion for me to listen to it. The fact that coffee houses exist in the world wasn't enough. Now, do I regularly do coffee houses? No, but that appearance changed a lot for me, because I remembered, okay, I can do an appearance across the country. I can also do an appearance in my backyard. And it's a hell of a lot simpler for me to do something that's an hour or less. And it helped me to pivot my strategy a bit. The United States has many different rich theater markets. And I've done appearances in the DC region, in the Chicago region. I'm working on some stuff in the Boston area, maybe the New York Hudson River Valley. I would do other places too, but it probably makes more sense for me to put most of my effort local, because it's a short drive and it's more convenient and I know more people. And then when more opportunities, I'll chase them. Coming back to the how do I stay buoyant, if I do a coffee house locally, that's an easy ask for my wife or my friend. And even if it's like just me, my guitar, my little amp, and like 10 people in a room, my expectations are so low, Luke, it's easy. And I'm going to have a nice night. The big show that I described as a 1-year lead up and the grant, to be clear, it's complicated. I'm excited for it. I will also be relieved on May 12th when it's in the rear view, right? So I think it's important when you have a long-term plan. My dream is Broadway, right? And short of Broadway, I'll take off-Broadway. Honestly, dear listeners, if you're in Britain and you love my show, get in touch. I wouldn't mind the West End. No offense. That would be lovely. But short of that dream, what else can I do? Can I do regional theater? Maybe. Can I do community theater? Maybe. Can I do college and university theater? Maybe. If I need to do the convention center, convention circuit, doing hospice conventions, trainings, can I do that? Sure, especially if they pay. But like, I think you get the point. Yes, I'm going to dream and shoot for the stars, but I also have a sense of what are the goals that are attainable and a little closer so that I can get, let's be real about it, gratification sooner.
Oh, wow.
Why did I do that? Because I'll ask you, why do you think it was worth it for me?
Well, it's what you're most passionate about. It's what you love doing. It's what you love talking about.
I love doing it. Yeah. And I could see really far in the future that eventually that day would come. You have to be buoyant and optimistic to see beyond tomorrow. Chasing a long-distance dream can, in certain ways, be a little bit depressing or a little bit discouraging, right? So discouraging is probably less clinical than depressing. You use the word lonely. That's true as well. So to counteract it, finding the tiny wins and finding the ways to help when you feel helpless. I'll quote a favorite self-help author, Gabby Bernstein. She teaches, when you feel helpless, help someone. Tiny example, just the other day, I connected with a fellow guest from a favorite podcast called End of Life University. He's a visual artist who draws the hands of dying people. Amazing concept. I loved it. I want to buy his book. He had heard my show and was curious about meeting me. We connected. Turns out he is a spectacular artist who is deathly afraid of media appearances. And I told him I would love to help you get on a few more podcasts because I think there's an angel funder who's going to pay for your book. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
That book, like, I can see it. Fine art, ink drawings of the hands of dying people.
Great concept.
Yeah. And you could imagine it in the lobby of every hospice in the world, and maybe as a gift for loved ones. But you can see it because coffee table books have been made about far less intriguing concepts. So, by the way, this was a morning when I was in a crap mood because I just found out that my ticket sales were dismal for the same show that I'm projecting excitement about. And I promise I will get us back to an ending here. So I was feeling not buoyant. I was feeling dejected, but I had an appointment on my calendar, which I had made at a previous moment where I was feeling more hopeful. So one of the techniques is to keep putting events on your calendar, keep making plans. I mean, I think this is basic tip for working with a depressed person who's struggling, that you're trying to help them see past the day, giving them plans to look forward to, because they're stuck in their own mess in the here and now, their own basement, to use that earlier metaphor. Well, we creatives, we entrepreneurs, we dreamers, because the dream can be so far away, and because real life has those ups and downs, when we're in the down, it's hard to imagine the up. So when we're in the up, that's when we need to enjoy the day, but also make plans, plant the seeds, so to speak, for the future flower or fruit. So clearly a year ago, I must have been in a buoyant moment when I had the nerve to apply for a big grant from the state. Guess what, Luke? I've gotten that check. Whoop, got to cash it or deposit it. But you get it. Like, that took a long time to get that piece of paper. But you know what having that piece of paper makes me believe in? I can do it again. From
Evidence.
Maryland State, because they have no rule against funding people. In fact, I believe they're more likely to fund you if you've shown results as a grant recipient. But guess what? There are states near us that also have arts departments. You get the point. And there are also nonprofits that do grants and private foundations that do grants. So here's a dream I have while I'm feeling buoyant. I want to do my first album. With this current grant, I hired $1,000 worth of musicians from Peabody Conservatory. I know an album's going to cost between $10,000 and $100,000, depending on my budget. But I don't have that money. You know who does? Foundations, right? So if I start with my feeling of buoyancy today and message my buddy who owns a recording studio, and I say, crazy idea, ballpark for a grant application, recording an original studio album. How much per song? Because why not? Because, hey, you never know. Maybe he'll be inspired to pitch in, or just give me the friend and family rate, or not. Whatever, dude can make a living. But when the unicorn arrives to the audience, when the person in the audience is someone with that well-padded wallet, and they say, how can I help? A smart, dreaming, creative entrepreneur needs to have answers ready. So I can say something like, well, the big dream is to record an album. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could share that?
Yeah, I think, Ben, I've got to say your passion is so good. Your energy is so good. I think there's so many...
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to this in terms of, there's more episodes that we could roll on. I think there's some gold in there.
Happy to be invited back.
And well, when you're on Broadway, why not? But
that's right. He was on our show.
Yeah, listen, it's gone.
Where's the shout out from the Tony stage?
I know there's no $4,000.
Shout out to my podcast hosts.
That's it.
So becoming a dad back in 2023 has definitely been challenging at times. Being on this entrepreneur journey, having multiple businesses, it can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. One way to kick off your personal development journey is nestled in the heart of Montenegro. Syro Boca Place offers more than just a lifestyle experience. It is the ultimate active lifestyle hotel. Whether you're looking to rejuvenate in their state-of-the-art recovery lab, take a dip in the 25-meter half Olympic pool with a retractable roof, or explore the stunning trails of Boca Bay. There is something for everyone. And if you're like me, who wants to stay active and experience what is on offer, so if you're looking to elevate your travel experience and feel better than when you arrived, to get in on the experience, head over to www.cyrohotels.com.
There's no $400,000 check. But look, we are unfortunately getting to the end of the episode, which, you know, there's a lot of good stuff shared there. And this is a final sort of question.
Ready.
That I love to ask each guest. And it's your like, what you perceive it as and what it means to you. So, Benjamin, what does mastering your life mean to you?
I think it starts with feeling like I'm using my superpowers for good as much as I can, while also remaining healthy and devoted to my loved ones. We kind of address this in passing, and maybe a future follow-up episode we can go deeper on this. But doing this interview right now, I had to juggle my family responsibilities, right? That's a reality. And I don't mind that. I love being both a family man and pursuing a dream, because I want my daughter to see her daddy on the Broadway stage, or to get the shout out from the Tony stage, "Dahlia, it's too late, go to sleep," which I always love when I hear that. But she'll be in the audience. She won't have to go to sleep that night. I don't know what the world will bring for my daughter as she grows into it. There's a lot of fear at the moment as a liberal lefty Dem in the United States, right? That's just real talk. But I want my daughter to see that even in a hard time, role model here, I can cheerfully roll up my sleeves, so to speak, and do the work that gets me closer to my dream, right? So now I don't try to pontificate to my daughter, because, you know, teenagers roll their eyes, but I like her to see that I'm working hard at my project. And once in a while, when there's an important appearance, I say, "Honey, I want you to be there, because this is a big gig. It matters to me, just as I show up for you." So I want to inspire her and my wife and my family. Yeah. And I'm also okay with giving time and energy and, yes, money and, yes, all of the types of exertion one can give, because I believe deeply in this project. I think there's a little bit of conventional wisdom about peaking when we're 18 or 22, and it has to do with kind of commercial notions of youth and virility and sexiness and all of that. But I think for a lot of professionals and creatives, we don't hit our stride until our 30s, 40s, or 50s. I hope that is true, because I'm about to turn 45 in a week, my friend. And I really believe the best is yet to come for this project, even though I've been working on it for 10 years, right? So that's what inspires me. And if mastering my life means finding the energy and the health and the inspiration to stay buoyant while pursuing this dream and making it happen, that's the mastery I'm after right now.
Listen, I really love the way you shared that. I think if I was to say to you, when you obviously watch back on this episode, Benjamin, is definitely sort of even show your daughter this, show your wife that, because I think it was just a really nice little piece there. I think it felt so real as well. I mean, obviously everything has been through the episode, but I'm just saying it was sort of like a great concluding piece. Every
good show needs a closing number.
Well, you know it. So just if the audience that are listening to your episode, because they could listen to it months and years down the line, and they want to connect with you, they want to discover where you are, where can people find you?
You got it. So I'll share it out loud. I dropped it in the chat. lifereviewmusical.com is our website. lifereviewmusical.com. You can find a great trailer video with footage from a live show we did, links to a ton of podcasts. If you enjoy hearing me jibber jabber, there's 30 or more opportunities there. Also, a very lengthy history of the show. The big question is, how do you take 10 years plus to make a show? You can find out there. And of course, there's a forum to get in touch. I'm doing bookings live in person as well as virtually. Yes, I will travel to you even across the pond. I was in London less than a year ago, Luke. I loved it.
Wow.
England is an amazing country, and London is an amazing little town, as we say. So I'd love to be back to Britain. So if you're interested, be in touch. The big dream is to connect with someone to stand up the show in a theater. So if you're involved with an actual theater and you want to explore putting up the show, you can DM me, Instagram, or contact me via the website. Instagram handle is at Life Review Musical, at Life Review Musical. I'm typing that in, and you can send me a message. I'm happy to respond. And last thing, even though I focused on songwriting because that's my specific skill, if you're a creative person of some type and you found my encouragement useful, send me a message. I will be a free cheerleader. I'm happy to see people out there doing the thing and pursuing their dreams. So be in touch. I'm happy to talk.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and being, again, a really good soul in offering your value, your wisdom, and just generally being a genuine guy that just wants to see people do well. So all of those links as well, just so you know, but they will be in the show notes, so people would easily be able to click them once they've obviously listened to your episode. So look, final thing from me across the pond, as you've said a few times, thank you very much for sharing what you've shared and spending this time on our podcast. It's been great to have you on.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Luke. And hello, everyone across the pond and wherever you are. Thanks for spending the time.
Cheers, man. Thank you.